When you feel everything so deeply, relationships can become both your greatest mirror and your hardest lesson. In this episode, we explore how to stay open hearted and grounded while navigating connection, isolation, and the path to becoming fully seen and met at any level of your soul. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life health transformational coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible. If you're ready to start attracting premium clients without chasing algorithms or hunting people down like a banshee on a mission, head on over to coachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. It's the first step to building a business where your clients seek you out rather than you having to hunt them down. Today, we are chatting with Ashtyn Monea.
Monea.
Okay. Ashtyn is a teacher, seer, and mentor known for her work in healing, embodiment, and higher consciousness. She brings a powerful blend of multidimensional awareness and grounded practicality to help individuals reconnect with their true essence and embody their highest potential. Specializing in masculine and feminine integration, Ashtyn has a unique ability to alchemize shadow into soul, leading to deep transformation. Welcome to the show, Ashtyn. It's great to have you with us.
I'm so glad to be here with you, Jill. I'm very much so looking forward to our conversation today.
Me too. We're gonna dive into some areas that are so yummy. So let me ask you, what's the most significant thing in your opinion as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
Mm. We can shift our energy inward. There's so much that is regularly asking for our energy to go outward. Like if we're doom scrolling, institutionalized education, the opinions of others, family dynamics, relational dynamics, shadow pattern, all of those things are outside of us. Though we might have to deal with them internally, they have originated from somewhere that is outside of the true essence of who we are. And so to really shift our focus, shift our energy, like really call back in ourselves and go deep inside of our bodies, which I also find is a wellspring for so much more than the physical, because there's these openings that will happen the more that we go internal. It's like discovering worlds inside of our own body and soul. And in that place, it's so much easier to collapse the illusion, the false conditioning, the programming, the ancestral bloodline inheritance that we have come into that's highly dysfunctional from inside of ourselves, because it's so much more closely related to the core of truth and who we are. And so I highly recommend going internal, internal, internal.
Love that. And it's so true. I was sharing with you an experience I was having just before we came on here. And as you're talking, I'm thinking what I was doing was allowing myself to get moved into an experience someone else was having and seeing how that felt. And it didn't feel all that great to me. And I find myself shifting. And we do that all the time. We don't think about it, but when we doom scroll or we get connected with even even good experiences can drag you out of being centered in the experience that you're supposed to be having in your own being. So it's interesting. To me, it's interesting how these things kind of show up, and then there's that mirror there that says, "Oh, see, that's how it works."
There's so much of like the auto response. And that's also what I'm meaning when I'm calling or inviting us each into ourselves, because we oftentimes, as you were saying, we don't notice in the moment that this is happening. But the more we go internal, the more aware we become of how prevalent our energy is going out into spaces that might actually not be as productive or soul shifting as we would want to be if we're here, for example, to create a new paradigm, which I know I am, and I'm sure you are, and so many listeners also are.
And it's designed that way. You know, you've got news and you've got all of the gonna be like, we're gonna get together and we're gonna do it, whatever it is, you know, on both sides. It's just like, that's just a game that doesn't even exist. Nothing of this actually does exist. And the more that we, except for this little fruit fly that wants to like be in my face, that does exist. Um, the more we're drawn into it or exposed to it, and right now we're getting set up for another round of they're right and we're wrong and we're right and they're wrong episode in America. It's just like it's exhausting. And if you let your energy get drawn into it instead of just allowing things to just be, and if you can go to the show and just enjoy the show, regardless of the outcome, you're going to have a much better experience than if you're going to try to be in part of the show and influence its outcome. It doesn't matter.
I think that it does matter. It matters in the sense that we're here to have an experience, and the things that are happening in such extreme contrast and polarity are very, very informative. Like, thank you, Gaia. Thank you, the third dimension, for bringing us into contact with such extremity that brings even master souls to this planet to have this type of experience to ultimately grow through. But it's like, okay, can we perceive the extreme through more of an observer consciousness from a different plane of higher consciousness, or let's say expanded consciousness, not above or below, but just fuller? And
Right.
then find the points where illusion is actually providing us a mirror for where truth lives. And then how can we take the truth pieces and fully integrate the polarities so that it's not so like at war with each other, and actually each is in supportive to each other. So it's just like a different kind of experiencing, as you were talking about, like kind of a watching the show. It's just from a different perspective.
This is reminding me of a video I saw the other day. I think it's either Michelangelo or Da Vinci who created this self-supporting bridge. And I think it's like 7 or 8 sticks that you can make a bridge that will actually support a lot of weight going over without any nails or anything. It's just the way you put it together. And you just look at those things and they don't mean anything. They're just sticks, but you put them in a certain way and they will form a tool that is very useful. So it informs you of what the possibilities are without having to make a determination of the value of the sticks by themselves.
Mm.
And then they can go back to just being sticks again. It's like you can pull things out that may not seem like they have a lot of meaning, but they do have meaning and purpose, but then they fold back into like they fade kind of back in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Like there's just a fuller sense of the picture that maybe we can't see when we're looking at each individual stick, or they're not in, let's say, their divine right placements to
Mhm.
build the structure that's needed to support the weight of whatever it's holding.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's how the world is right now. We're getting to see the sticks that will create this beautiful space. 'Cause I think we really are moving into a much grander experience for all souls. But like I like to equate it to birth, you know. Birth is always bloody and painful, no matter where it's coming from. But afterwards, it's just like so amazing to
Mm.
experience the life that comes from it.
Yeah, it reminds me of just the process of like a dark night of soul. You could resist the process, and there will be far more suffering if you do so. Or you can really fully surrender into what is before you and what's being called through also for you, and receive the deeper giftings that are before you, which becomes like the bounty that you couldn't have possibly known before you were led into the void, or before you also bottom out through the void to come back into this like ultimate state of bloom. And, when we're going through those kind of deeper initiations and we're being called into these unknown spaces, oftentimes what happens is so much gets shaken up and it comes to surface and it's really loud. And it doesn't mean that the things that are coming to surface weren't there. It's just that you were in maybe a different place of being. And now that you're having to descend through, because the void calls us into a descent process, the chatter, now you're actually able to perceive it in a way that you couldn't before. Just like, if we're moving something from a place of unconscious or subconsciousness into a place of consciousness, and so this is very much so what we are experiencing and we have been experiencing is like the chatter is getting louder. The things are becoming more obvious. They're also far more in our face. And it feels quite disruptive, like it can feel quite disturbing. But if we allow ourselves to surrender and actually drop below the chatter, those are those deeper whispers of truth that are really calling us through. And if we can allow ourselves to really get there, that's when we emerge with the soul gold. That's when we see a new paradigm. That's where we shift personally and relationally and societally.
And it all starts with one person and the next person and the next person. That just often it's called waking up, but it's so much more. And I I feel for people that are just starting to wake up and they're like, "Oh, this is going to be marvelous," but it's really not ever marvelous. That waking up process is almost always really painful. Like your circle of friends changes, your the way that you like interact with your body, the mind body connection. It's like you suddenly realize that you have a body and your body speaks to you, which, so many people go through life and they're just all in their head. It's as though their body is just this thing that moves them around and keeps their head going without recognizing that you have a whole nother sensory perception mechanism that is like attached below your neck.
Totally. There's a huge issue with disembodiment and disassociation, and there's been many agendas to try to prevent us from actually getting fully anchored into our body, to especially include anchoring our souls into our body, which is why so much of it is focused in a heady, heady, heady type of compartmentalization, and also a disconnection between the body is a disconnect between the feminine. An over active mind is to center in a masculine way of being, even if it's a wounded masculine way of being, because there's the higher mind, which is far truer to the true masculine than the lower mind experience. And we also have the disconnection of the heart. And the disconnection of the heart is also, again, not integrating the feminine in. And so we're really being called into, as I was saying previously, collectively and personally into a descent. And that descent also coexists with our bodies. And then when you're speaking about the awakening experience, how much is sold on the market of like, like it's going to be so amazing. You're going to find all of your people. It's going to be like the most heavenly experience of your life. And it's like anyone who has been on the journey knows that that is an illusion that's being sold to market it. Because if you were to be like, hey, this is the truth of the process, a lot of people would be rather resistant to that. But for me, the people who are attracted to me are the people who are like, I want that. Like, I want the truth and I want nothing but the truth. I want the real process of embodying higher consciousness and nothing outside of that. Like, be clear with me, be direct with me, provide me wisdom, be further along on the path so that you've carved out certain pockets that I now am able to step into with a little bit more fluidity because you stepped in before I have. And so, this process of like awakening, when we have these experiences, are, as you were mentioning, perceptivity to include into what was seemingly a subtle realm is no longer subtle. Like the level of stimulus that also comes with awareness is extreme, especially when we've not been so connected to our sight, our body, our intuition, just seeing through the veil. That's a lot to be going through all at the same time. And also, as you mentioned, contrary to what's being sold on the market, isolation is more prevalent in that space than true community. And oftentimes, what I have found is that where people are kind of selling the idea of true community, it's what I term in my teachings faux spirituality. It's actually more persona that's running around than it is embodiment. And so the same exact patterns that are plaguing society are in these faux spiritual communities. And when you can see deeper, those communities are not going to be resonant for you. If anything, you'll become a threat, a perceived threat to the community because you can see through the persona. You can see through the lack of embodiment. You can see through the dysfunctional dynamics that are the same, but just being sold as higher consciousness. And all of a sudden now, you're wanting a desire and community maybe more than ever because of the extreme isolation, and you're needing resonance. Like, okay, does anyone understand my experience? Hello, I'm out here, I'm waving my flag around, and yet you're receiving the exact opposite in contrast, and an even deeper gaslight because people are saying, no, I'm here for true community, I'm here for higher consciousness. And that's not at all what's actually in the room with you. So this can all be so extreme: the sensitivity, the sight, the isolation, the lack of community, the new experiences that you're having. And of course, we want to be supported in these places because where we're going is deeper than what most people will even begin to entertain. And so it's like we have these needs still, right? We still have a need, a human need for belonging. How do we fill in the gap? And
Yeah, the whole gaslighting thing is huge. And you come from being in community with whatever society that you have around you, because we all have some society around us. And it doesn't matter if we're talking like religious organizations or the spiritual community or whatever group that you have risen to um spiritually. You you are going to move out of that community and you are going to not fit. It's just like as you move into different levels, the people that were around you before will try to hang on to you and hold you down, and it's lonely. The more
yeah,
you move up, the more lonely it is.
1,000%. And when you're talking about what people will try to hold on to is an old version of you. It's someone that no longer even exists, which is so, again, another gaslight in of itself.
And then you start questioning yourself, am I going crazy? It's not uncommon to feel like and you get sick and things don't work right in your body because they're waking up and they're being used in ways, and your body's purging other things out and making way for this transformation to happen. When butterflies go into that cocoon, they turn into mush. you know some ways that happens to us.
Oh, 1,000%. I've been there like a million bazillion times. over definitely is a very real experience. Something that I say is, belong to your own soul, not a sick society. And this
Yeah.
is what you're meaning when you're like, hey, like I'm not fitting anymore. But where you are landing is into your actual essence. You're landing deeper into truth. You're landing deeper in your body. You're landing deeper into your true path and your actual purpose. Because that energy that has the agenda of calling us out, what is it calling out us out of? Well, we've mentioned many things here, but it's also connected to your true path and your true purpose, like why you're even here on earth at this time. And in order for us to really align with what that is for us, we have to come into a soul level individuation. And when we're in this wild time between an old paradigm and new paradigm emerging, it means you have to also individuate from the dysfunction, from the illusion, in order to click into place in your own alignment with in your own alignment also exists the alignment of a new paradigm. And so it is like almost, yeah, I'm not fitting in this puzzle anymore. I think there might be a puzzle over here that's starting to be built, and my piece might fit really well over there, but it no longer fits over here.
They're kind of like timelines. You know, that movie, Everything All at Once. I can never remember that title, but it's we switch timelines all the time in our lives, and it may look like things are the same, but they're not. You're different, therefore your whole paradigm is different, and it it happens multiple times. And it's like, the movies where they show up and everything's different. All the people are the same, but they're holding different roles. It doesn't make them bad or good. It's just that they're in this paradigm. They hold a different role than they did in the paradigm you were just in. And you have to adjust to that. And you are a different person. You are playing a different role in this paradigm. And we constantly move through paradigms. And if you're doing it purposefully, you can jump a couple paradigms in the scheme of things. And then it's like it's kind of jolting rather than um smooth in terms of the transitions.
Yeah, this is also why I'm a huge proponent for integration because I've watched people do quantum leaps into new timelines and paradigms. I'm very aware of timelines. I can see them, I sense them. I can, I'm walking through multiple timelines at the same time in my life often. And so I'm also able to sense that in other people. And I've watched people have these amazing quantum leaps. And it's like, wow, you just went really fast, really quick, but they didn't put in place the stepping stones. So what'll happen is they'll go whoop, right back to a old kind of timeline, an old version of themselves. They don't have the foundation, the anchor, the stability, the ground level skillfulness, boundaries, communication, like the true forms of embodiment that are capable of anchoring that timeline. So yeah, you could totally travel and really quickly into a new timeline. You could get like a taste of it, but if you can't hold it, it's momentary.
And we could share this with the listeners in terms of people that like win the lottery. They've moved from one timeline to another, but they didn't anchor in how to get there and to maintain that. So they almost always end up falling back to the timeline that they were originally on. And they're like, I don't understand how this happened. It is a quantum movement through timelines. And until people really start to grasp this concept of how life functions in this realm, they're they're never going to be able to like move forward and have it stick as they're going in different timelines. And I think that's what you help people with, right?
1,000%. So I say I'm a multidimensional baddie because I am. Like I work with highly intuitive and everyone's on a spectrum, right? But the more intuitive you are, the more insightful you are, the more consciously embodied you are, the less resources you have. I am that rare to find person that people are like, where does that person exist that can actually support me at the level I am? And I am there. Those are the people I help. And again, you could be a new awakener. I can still help you, of course, right? But this kind of multidimensional nature within inside of myself is deeply anchored. I started as an anchor. I started at ground, and then I moved and worked my way up. And then I also am full integration in every direction: vertical plane, horizontal plane, spiral, masculine, feminine, light, dark, heart, fire. Like I could go on and on and on. This is really the place by which I teach. It's the foundation is integration. And so when someone is maybe more cosmic in their orientation, I'm able to help them land into their body, anchor in their purpose, be clear in how they speak, understand relational dynamics in a way that they haven't been able to before, to really navigate those ground level challenges, the professional path and business creation. And if someone's more anchored in their original orientation, I'm also able to help them get into attunement, feeling sensation, their intuition, rediscover quantumly who they are, to include multidimensional perception. I've had clients who have never had a single past life experience before, and in one session has messaged me after and have been like, I just experienced multiple lifetimes back to back to back. Why? Because ultimately I'm a magnet and I'm an anchor. I'm literally drawing in your fullest nature in every direction. And so, how my field operates is to call really full soul bodied humans into this ground reality, because the only way we're actually going to anchor a new paradigm is if we do that. And so, absolutely, 1,000%, this is the place where my work is, I would say, pretty rare to find, is that in the comprehensive nature of integration that I'm able to offer in every single direction. And though I could be considered woo woo, I am so grounded. I am amazing relative to relationships. Like, I have a background in psychology, marriage, and family therapy, but it just also wasn't full enough for me because it didn't include the other realms. And so, I'm able to help people at ground, cosmic, every direction. And it's like, where do you find that? Like, oh, where does that exist? It exists here. And I love it. I love doing it. Yeah.
I love that you offer this to people, and there aren't a lot of people that probably get what you're talking about, but I respect what you're doing. Because I know that there aren't that many people out there that are that kind at that level where they can say, here, just like, let me hold your hand and I'm going to show you how to take that step, that next step, that you're sitting right here on the edge of the ledge and you know you can fly, but you're not confident. I'll just like swoop underneath you and we'll go, and then all will be gone and you'll still be flying.
1,000%. And, it's also like, I know that sometimes it depends on where I'm speaking from. I can speak from a pretty grounded level where people who aren't even spiritual can understand things that I'm saying. And then there's other places where I'm speaking like, okay, I'm going up here at this level. And sometimes people feel unmet, but I'm speaking to a larger audience that there's a full spectrum out there, right? And so, like, if you are listening, you're feeling like, I don't really understand this part, I would encourage you to just open up the space to know that there are things here for you to receive that can absolutely land later in another moment, and you will fully understand. And this is also how I work with my clients. I soul level attune. I'm attuning to you at the deepest level. I am known for this. Like, I am known for seeing the unseen. I am known for meeting people in places they have never been met in their entire life. And I can reflect to you the truth of your nature because I can really see you and I can really meet you in those places. And so, wherever you're at on your journey, whatever it is that you're navigating through, I'm able to meet you there, because if I'm working with you in a space that's like one on one, or even in my group spaces, I offer intuitive coaching and group spaces that I hold, you're receiving time, me and you. And I am going to speak to the place that is needed for you. and I'm able to touch into the very essence of the moment and what life is trying to divinely orchestrate around you so that you can receive it to the highest degree. Like, this is what's on the table for you. And I think that's really important. You know, that soul level attunement is essential in facilitation. And also, unfortunately, a lot of practitioners don't have that.
Yeah, there's so many people that talk about things like manifesting and um, the law of attraction and all of these things that I do believe they exist in the world, but usually it has to do with moving through timelines more than just wishing. And it usually ends up people are wishing for things.
From
They
their
may say, yeah, from their head.
head.
And or they may be like, oh, I can totally feel it. I'm putting myself in that experience. It's different. There's there's mechanisms, and if you really do want to like exist in a different paradigm, you have to do the work. And it is work. I mean, there's things that you physically have to do and experiences that you have to get to that point where you can be ready to experience the paradigm that you think you want to experience. And I have a cautionary tale for this. You may think you want to be XYZ or you want to live in whatever. Everything has its drawbacks. So you may just be looking at the rosy picture, but you're not thinking about all of the other details that are involved with having that experience because no experience is like all one thing or another. And people don't think about that. It's like, the person that wants the really big house. Yeah, you can have a really big house. I've had really big houses in my life. I've manifested really big houses. They're a pain in the ass because you have to clean them. And when you have 7 bathrooms in your house and 5 people who want to use every single bathroom, let me tell you, a house with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, much better. You're not spending all your time dealing with keeping this asset like up to date. But people will I want a really big house. I want a really big piece of property without thinking, how are you managing and stewarding it? And the taxes and all the other little pieces that go with the experience that you think you want to have. And this goes with like anything that you think you want to manifest, to really think it through and and move into that space. And that's where you come in.
Yeah, it's the difference between fantasy and what I call actuality. And
Yes.
actuality has anchor, it has ground. Fantasy is either in the head or it's like way out in outer space. And so, what is a component that is missing? Of course, it's holding. So, it's like if you're envisioning, I want this thing, then there should be a follow up question. Am I in the place to actually hold that thing? Because it requires holding, just like you're talking about a big there's an actual process holding. The money example that you're talking about, the lottery, oftentimes people don't have a holding capacity for the actual amount of money that's being come in, and so that's why they lose it, because they can't hold it. And those things are masculine integration, it's ground level experiencing. And so we can't, if we're in one quadrant and not another, we don't have the integrative piece that we need to comprehensively actually embody the thing that we're saying that we ultimately want and desire. And I think this is also what you're pointing to, where there's a lot of people who speak about manifestation, but they're speaking about it from a magic wand experience, not
Yes.
an embodiment experience. And you can say something like, oh, well, I want to be aligned with that. Okay, what does it take to be aligned with that? And these processes, you could say, I want to be aligned with this thing. It's like that process. What if someone came behind you and said, okay, if you want to be aligned with that, it's going to take you 3 years. It's going to take you 4 initiations that go deep, deep in the dark. It's going to take all of your relationships, your current professional path. It's going to, right? Then would you be like, yes, still? Because that's the real yes.
Yeah. There's there's just stuff that you have to be willing to, in some cases, give up, and in some cases, embrace. And in any experience that you want to have, like, you look at kids and they say, we'll just use this as an example, but somebody says, I want to be a doctor. And in order to be a doctor, you have to start young, usually, because you have to do well in school, in the maths and sciences, because you have to be able to train your brain to work in a certain way. So you're starting young, even if you do other things, you have to have that foundation set. And not everybody is comes to this realm equipped to do that exercise. Can they? Maybe, but you really have to be molded in that way in the beginning. And then there's, high school and college and other experiences that you're having, that also at your connections that you're making, because doctors just don't come out of nowhere. You have to be connected to people who can help you get into the medical systems that you may want to be in, because there's lots of different avenues you can go down. And it's not like you're just going to wake up tomorrow and be a doctor. All of manifesting is like that, though. It, People need to understand that there's processes to get to wherever it is you want to experience.
Yep, 1,000% on the stepping stones and the things that are really needed to get you to ultimately what it is that you desire. I also think that an important component here, relative to what you just shared, is really surrendering in to our own soul's calling, because that already has certain stepping stones or building blocks built into it. Whereas if we're doing something that goes against the grain of what we ultimately may have even decided in a way before we arrived earthside
Yep.
that this is what we wanted, there we're gonna feel the resistance of that. Like in your example, if you're not a science or math minded person, this is going to, like, your whole nervous system's likely going to shut down, like your body's going to shut down. There are also ways in which, when we say, I want to arrive earthside and I have this deeper purpose and this is the kind of life path that I really want to experience and I want to align with, when we come out of that, we can become very, very ill. And I know for me, someone who is just like, spirit's like going to constantly keep me in line, I will die. Like, I will die if I don't live my true path and purpose. And I have clients that that's absolutely also their experience. But what happens when we're taught that, like taught to be outside of our body and not listen to the wisdom of our body? We'll try to press against the truth of our nature and the things that are actually calling us in, like these building blocks that may not physically have been manifested yet, but they are behind the scenes to support our soul in its true path and purpose. And, it's like, okay, now I'm getting really, really ill because I'm coming out of alignment. But how would you even know if you don't have the experience of feeling into the wisdom of your body? You'll just think I'm getting sick for no reason. And I think both of us know that we don't just get sick for no reason. There are certainly deeper reasons why our body is having the experience that our body is having.
It's dis-ease. It's not, there's a million labels for things that usually it's designed to sell you something. Um, but when your body is feeling at dis-ease with itself, which is what it is, and you recognize it, it's either trying to purge something or it's trying to heal something. And if we don't give it space and appreciate the process and support the process, we stand to make it worse. And sometimes it has to do with the things that we're thinking in our heads, because everything we think produces chemicals that affects the rest of our body. It's like smiling is so important. When you smile, it physically changes the chemistry in your body. or laugh or hold your arms out really high or stand in these power poses. It has to do with changing chemicals because we're bioelectrical beings having a spiritual experience.
I think this is also where it's important to mention like the power of somatic work. It's like
Mhm.
for me and my own kind of teachings and the way that I work, for me, somatic is where the body meets energetic. So it's the unseen and also the seen. And there are ways in which our body can also auto respond, just like our mind does, into certain kind of positions. And if we are in a moment of something that's deeply stressful, our body might go into a position that it did in childhood. That's just like the way it auto responds. And then there's like the body brain connection and also emotions that automatically also follow the body. And so, if we can reclaim our connection to the wisdom of our body, this is also where we can start really working with the wisdom of somatics to reorganize our automatic mental responses because the mind will always follow the body.
Mhm. I love that. Man, I could talk to you all afternoon. This is just like this is where I like to hang.
I hear you. Me too.
So people can get your free newsletter over at trueselfembodied.com, right? And you want to
Yes.
talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So head over to trueselfembodied.com and you can subscribe to my monthly newsletter. This is not like a typical monthly newsletter, y'all. This is not like just getting on my email list. This is value. Like I provide value. So you're getting a written transmission with a video transmission every single month. Sometimes it's following collective tide themes. So you might be feeling certain things in the field, and I'm helping you leverage it for your personal process. It also might be like deep, deep teachings that really people pay for, right? And so I essentially describe this as being enrolled ongoingly in a course for higher consciousness. That's really what my newsletter is. So high value, definitely recommend it. trueselfembodied.com.
Love it. And people can find out how to work with you through that link as well. So if they want to connect with you and explore how joining your communities or working one-on-one with you would look, that's
Yeah, I'll say it's all there except for what I keep hidden in the background. So there are certain offerings that I allow the public to step into and access, like my one-on-one SEER session, my TIE, which is the Integrative Evolutionary Membership Group, and then other groups that I'm facilitating courses, etc. But there's deeper, just like we were talking about, like there's deeper processes that we're being called into. And so there are other pathways that I don't actually share publicly on my website. You have to enter my world, enter my work, and then things will really start to open up.
I love that. I because sometimes people just aren't really ready for the full fire hose effect. It would just like it just blows them away, and then they're like standing there and they have no idea what hit them. Versus just introducing it in a way that people can take small steps and work their way into like one little timeline step to another before you start leaping timelines and dropping your stepping stones along the way so you know how to to get there safely. Put it that way.
Yes, exactly, Jill. It's literally been built into this conversation that we've been having today. I build my business with true transformation and embodiment, and also recognizing how initiation moves, how digestion moves. Also, that I am a high caliber initiation and what that can be like. And so I build that into my business so that ultimately the flow of it in your own process, wherever you're at, it will make sense.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ashton.
It's been
Been
such a pleasure,
amazing.
Jill. Yeah, so glad we did this.
Me too. To learn more about Ashton and to get her free newsletter with the monthly video transmissions, please visit trueselfembodied.com, and we'll be sure to put that link in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in with us today to the You World Order Showcase podcast. If you're ready to amplify your voice, monetize your mission, and start attracting premium clients, your next step is simple. Head to coachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. Be sure to join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today. Get visible.